Alright, it's fantasy football season, thank God. I'm Buster Brown and the show is Redemption Rehab. And if you tuned in today, it's for one reason. You want to start winning championships in fantasy football. And that starts on draft day with a solid draft. So let's take a look at draft strategies for position players. Every position player is important, so let's hit the chalkboard and check out the facts. Okay, here we are on fantasyfootballcalculator.com, and we're going to go over and we're going to check out join a free mock draft. So we're going to explore two things. We're going to look at draft strategies at the position where you pick in the first round. And then we're going to practice those strategies in a free mock draft. So let's head over to Fantasy Football Calculator and check out the facts. Hey, well, welcome to FantasyFootballCalculator.com. Before we get to doing a free mock draft, this is a great site to do it, I want to show you draft strategies on their content. Let's go up here to the top left hand corner of the screen, right here where it says draft in green. Click on that and you'll see that there's all kinds of tools that you can use in here. You got mock draft lobby, you got average draft position sheets, which is the only thing I take into a draft. You got rankings, but let's go over here to draft tools. Under draft tools, if you go down a little bit right here where it's in green and you click on draft strategies. Let's go in and take a look at draft strategies for the first 3 rounds at a position that I have to pick in
an upcoming draft.
So the first thing I do is punch in my league format. As you can see up here in the top center of the screen, it says format. I'm going into a PPR league, point per reception league. I only do 12 or 14 man leagues. If you're a beginner, you should be doing the 8 and 10 man leagues. So let me punch the 12 team there, and I'm picking in the 4th position in this league. Okay, it's a big money league. I'm paying a couple grand to be in this league. So I want to practice my draft strategy. And as you can see, once I do that, what happens below? What we're doing here is just concentrating on draft strategies, so I enlarged it. So if you look at the things on the left that are color-coded, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, quarterbacks, the first column that you'll see in the center of the screen is projected point total for the week. I have a tendency to ignore that column because I'm talking draft strategy, so you don't have to look at it. What you want to look at is to the right, called frequency. Look at the highest number on here. The draft strategy that's got the highest number, if you go down here, is 1151. You go to the left of it, and what does it say to the left of it? It says running back, wide receiver out of the 4th position. So out of the 4th spot, the number 1 strategy, which is probably the number 1 strategy I win the most championships with, which is running back, wide receiver. Let's check out the number 2 position. The number 2 position, which is only 10 people less, which is running back. It's got 1,141 people use this strategy as opposed to the 1,151 people that used the number 1 strategy. Last year, I was in championship games with both these strategies and I won both of them. So they do work. And I use this site to tell me which strategies I should start my draft with, and I use them. I practice them on their mock draft site. Let's look at our number 3 and our number 4 strategies according to FantasyFootballCalculator.com. Here we are back at FantasyFootballCalculator.com. We're looking at our number 3 and 4 strategies to start a draft. If you go down to the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, you'll see that at 805 people utilized the strategy of running back, wide receiver. That means in the first round they took a running back, in the second and third round they went wide receiver. That's our number 3 strategy, picking out of the 4th spot. What's our number 4 strategy? Let's take a look at that. Our number 4 strategy was 623 people using this strategy to practice their draft. They went with running back, wide receiver, running back. If you want to compete in fantasy football and you want to win championships, you have to have multiple strategies going into your draft. I just showed you 4 strategies to start your draft with that people are using in mock drafts that will help you get a balanced draft with depth. So let's go practice these top 4 strategies out of the 4th position on Fantasy Football Calculator's mock draft site. Okay, all I did was go to Fantasy Football Calculator's mock draft lobby, and this is what came up. I'm practicing my 4 strategies out of the 4th position. So what I need to do is punch in my league format, which I told you earlier was a PPR league. I'm only doing PPR 12-man leagues this year, so I punched that in there. As you can see, anything in gray where it's highlighted right now, those are taken. They go quickly in August, which it's in August 2019. The spots that are open are in white with a dot. So if you click on any of those things, you're going to find yourself in a draft. So let's give us some time. We're going to go down here, right here to where it's got 5 minutes before the draft starts. We're practicing out of the 4th spot, which is still up here. It moved up 1 because drafts fill up. So I click on that. I'm going to enter team name, which I'm just going to punch in anything and hit enter draft. Once that countdown is 0, number 1 guy, his name is Q. He's going to get the pick. So what I like to do is I'm just going to put people on my watch list. So I come over here and just add people to my watch list by clicking on their name. That's all you have to do. And you should have at least 3 or 4 players in your watch list at any position you want before it's your turn to pick. As you can see, the draft is started. He took Saquon Barkley. The guy up here has 34 seconds to pick, 30 seconds to pick. The next pick has 44, and then it's my turn to pick. Watch what happens when I select one of these guys. I select their name, it comes over here, and I can hit draft player. Now, if for some reason you take too long to pick and the time runs out, the clock will only let you do that twice in any draft. And guess what? You're not allowed to pick anymore. The computer will take over. So it's my pick. I've got 2 names up there. I'm going to take my guy, Alvin Kamara. So once I click on his name, I hit draft player. If I don't like a player, I just hit the X and it takes them off. So I hit draft player before my time runs out. If my time runs out, the computer will pick for me. We're going to try one of our 4 draft strategies. Our number 1 draft strategy was running back, wide receiver. Our number 2 draft strategy was running back, running back. Our number 3 draft strategy was running back, wide receiver. And the last one we're going to try at position number 4 is running back, wide receiver, running back. Let's come back in round 3 and see what happens. Okay, here we are in the 3rd round. As you can see, I am team 4 right here. I went into this draft with my draft strategy number 1 being running back, wide receiver. It didn't pan out for me because when Antonio Brown came here, I didn't like any of the running backs. So I went with a good wide receiver and Antonio Brown. So I knew my 1st and 2nd strategy were no longer going to work, even though they were most popular. I knew I was dealing with strategies number 3 and strategy number 4, which was running back, wide receiver, running back. So I went with strategy number 4. Why did I do that? Because I go into a draft with multiple strategies. One won't work for you because you'll panic or you'll reach for a player you shouldn't be taking. Multiple strategies is how I win championships. I go into a mock draft or a live draft thinking I'm going to have 3 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and 1 tight end up to round 7, all prior to drafting my quarterback. Let's see if that works out for me going into round 7. Okay, here we are back in round 7. I went into round 7 with the strategy of having 3 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and a tight end, all prior to drafting my quarterback. Didn't work out for me. Why? Because I saw value at another position. So let's take a look at it. Over here I am at number 4, Triple X. I drafted Alvin Kamara, knowing I have to get his backup, Latavius Murray, later in the draft. I got Antonio Brown. I drafted Melvin Gordon. No, I have to get his backup later in the draft. Austin Eckler. Even though there's a concern that he may hold out, I still would have had to have had Austin Eckler, who's his backup. Then I got Kenny Golladay, O.J. Howard. I was thinking about taking Tyler Boyd there, but I knew I needed a tight end, and I ended up with 2 of them. I can use one or both of these every week as a flex. So when the draft is over, we'll come back and see how my strategies panned out for me. Okay, the mock draft is over. Of course, you should understand this is practice. You should do this over and over again to develop strategies that work for you and to see where players are going inside a draft. So let's take a look at my draft and analyze it. You can see here I am, a computer where it says number 4. I was Triple X. I started out with Alvin Kamara, Antonio Brown, and Melvin Gordon. It was not my top strategy. It was my number 4 strategy. But since I went into the draft with multiple strategies, I chose the best one with the best players. I didn't reach and I didn't panic just to make a strategy work. My next strategy was up to round 7. After round 3, I went with wide receiver Kenny Golladay. I went with O.J. Howard, took my flex player Hunter Henry because being strong at tight end is a good option. Then I had no choice but to take my backup to Melvin Gordon. When you draft running backs early, you should consider where their backups are being taken in a draft. You may have to spend a premium pick like I did in round 7 on Melvin Gordon's backup. I wasn't able to get Alvin Kamara's backup because he got taken in the same round. So I went with Kareem Hunt, who's coming back after week 8, which is a good choice. After that, I was weak at wide receiver, so I decided to take some young talent in Keke Coutee, James Washington, and Paris Campbell. It's never bad having Deshaun Jackson back, looking to prove a point in Philadelphia. And since I didn't have any quarterbacks, and I normally don't take defenses and kickers in these drafts because I usually don't take defenses and kickers before round 15, I went with 3 quarterbacks, giving me the things I looked for at the end of a draft, which is depth and balance. In summary, when you go to fantasyfootballcalculator.com to practice, check out the strategies that they have available, then practice the strategies that you saw until you find a strategy that works out for you in your draft. Never go into a draft with just one strategy. It may not work out for you, and it usually doesn't. I'm Buster Brown. The show's Redemption Rehab. Good luck.